The first question is, how would you explain to a friend or client that is convinced carbohydrates cause weight gain and they should be greatly reduced when dieting? The body uses carbs as its main source of energy. During digestion, complex carbs are broken down into simple sugars called glucose and released into your blood, which is called blood glucose. Insulin is released to help glucose enter the body's cells where it can be used for energy. Extra glucose is stored in the liver and muscles. Some is changed into fat. A low-carb diet is meant to cause the body to burn stored fat for energy, which leads to weight loss. Now, if you're eating lots of carbs and not exercising and being a couch potato, then yeah, carbohydrates are going to cause weight gain because those carbs that you consumed are going to be turning into fat since you didn't use them as energy. So eating the right amount of carbs will not cause weight gain, but eating too much carbs can cause weight gain. The second question is, summarize what research has shown with regards to various diet archetypes we discussed in class: low fat, very low fat, low carb, keto, high protein, intermittent fasting, and their impact on body composition. A low-fat diet can be classified as high carbohydrates and low protein diet with low fat between 20 and 35%. A very low fat diet would have between 10 and 20%. This diet is suggested for people with heart diseases and diabetes. Studies show a decrease in body weight, body fat, and waist circumference, but results were due to decreased caloric intake than decreased fat intake. For a low-carb diet, consuming 45% carbs is considered low and also showed to lead to significant weight loss and body composition changes. A low-carb diet helps with waist to hip circumference and decreases the risk of cardiovascular disease. On the ketogenic diet, the individual should consume around 20 grams of carbs or 10% of their total energy. Utilization of ketone bodies impart outperform non-ketogenic conditions for the goal of fat loss. The ketogenic diet also increases fat oxidation. A high protein diet can be considered 1.2 to 1.6 grams per kilogram, or even up to 2.4 grams per kilogram a day. If paired alongside intense training, a 2.4 gram per kilogram diet, you can see a greater amount of fat loss compared to the 1.2 gram per kilogram diet. Protein has the highest thermic and metabolic effect, so therefore it takes more energy to break down and fully utilize, which will burn fats and carbs. A high protein diet is best paired alongside resistance training. This can help lead to an increase in fat-free mass while decreasing body fat. Intermittent fasting can be alternate 24-hour fasting followed by 24-hour feeding period. This causes a weight and fat loss due to decreased caloric intake. Another type of Intermittent fasting is whole day fasting, which is 2 24-hour periods of fasting a week with 5 days of maintenance diet. This diet shows weight loss, but shows to not be any more effective than just eating in a calorie deficit every day. Another type of intermittent fasting is time-restricted feeding, which is fasting 16 to 20 hours a day with a feeding period of 4 to 8 hours a day, and that causes weight loss as a result of decreased caloric intake, but studies have not noticed a significant change in body composition. The third question is, what are some of the important considerations or factors that would promote a favorable body composition, one that's lower in fat mass and higher in lean muscle tissue? So I don't think that one diet is better than the other when it comes to body composition. As long as you are hitting the daily recommended intake, body composition will remain the same or slightly alter. Obviously, if you're a power lifter, your muscles are going to be bulkier versus if you run all the time, your muscles might be leaner. Cross-country runners use slow twitch muscles, which have higher concentrations of mitochondria and myoglobin, and these fibers lead to smaller, more toned muscle, which is that favorable body composition that we've talked about in class. Very often, adults find it easy to run before or after work, either outside or on the treadmill, weather permitting. So running requires little equipment, and it can also be a fairly short workout compared to resistance training. Some people spend 45 minutes to an hour in the gym, when compared to going on a run can only take 20 to 30 minutes. So people find it, like adults, if you have a high-paced life, going on a run can be shorter, still getting that workout in, and attaining that lean muscle tissue, lower fat mass that people are wanting. But of course, another side of gaining that favorable body composition is what you eat. So you're going to want to eat more calories from muscle building foods. Lean ground beef, pork, skinless poultry, eggs, and seafood are all examples of lean protein sources that can help you meet those protein goals while building the lean muscle. You're also going to want to have some healthy fats in your diet. You need carbohydrates and protein to have a well-balanced diet, and fat is essential for absorbing certain nutrients and also helps you meet your calorie needs while building muscle. Healthy fats from foods like olive oil, canola oil, nuts, seeds, and avocados are more likely to help raise your HDL levels, that good cholesterol, when replaced with saturated fat from animal products. You're also going to want to avoid consuming alcohol, sugary drinks, fried foods, and refined carbs. The fourth question is, explain the difference between an eating disorder and disordered eating, outlining potential signs. So disordered eating doesn't necessarily mean the individual has an eating disorder. The key distinction between an eating disorder and disordered eating is whether or not the person has symptoms and experiences that meet the American Psychiatric Association. People with disordered eating often experience anxiety with specific foods, or they even skip meals. Their weight fluctuates often, And these individuals also have very set routines surrounding food and exercise. People with disordered eating usually do not realize the impact it has on their mental and physical health. And disordered eating can also turn into a full eating disorder if the individual does not get back on a normal eating schedule, like 3 meals a day with some snacks between. In class, we listened to a presentation about disordered eating versus eating disorders, and it touched a lot on sports, mainly the sport of wrestling. Wrestling is a very weight-determining sport. Players very often have to lose unhealthy amounts of weight in a short amount of time in order to meet their weight class. So a player might naturally weigh 170, but they need to get down to 155 in order to weigh in for their meet. So the wrestlers spend many days losing water weight by not drinking water, which can lead to dehydration. And they also go days on end in a caloric deficit while also working out. So all of these things combined can lead to health concerns like low blood sugar levels and dehydration. Also, the wrestler weighs after the wrestler weighs in, they're able to eat whatever they want the night before their meet to bulk back up and try to be heavier than their opponent that they're going to be going up against. So that type of eating can turn into binge eating if it's not managed properly. Also, the individual would have to know that they are cutting weight for a sport, not just because of their body image. I feel like when the reason for cutting weight turns into body image, then that's when the person might be starting to turn their disordered eating into an eating disorder. The last question is, explain why losing or gaining weight is not as simple as calories in, calories out. So it's really about the macros, I think. Calories in, calories out isn't the same as losing or gaining weight because different foods have different thermic effects. Different foods also have different macronutrients, and the amount of protein, fats, and carbohydrates are different, varying the metabolic response. Also, weight loss requires a caloric deficit. You need to eat fewer calories than you burn to lose weight. After your body's energy requirements are met, the extra calories are stored for later use, mostly as fat, but also some in your muscles as glycogen. So consuming more calories than you burn will result in weight growth, whereas consuming fewer calories than you require will result in weight loss. Calories in, calories out goes beyond food and exercise, though. Eat less, move more only takes into account the calories you eat and the calories you burn through exercise and other daily movements. But calories in, calories out really is an informal way of expressing the energy balance equation, which is very complex. I found this equation on Dragonfly Fitness and Nutrition Coaching. They discussed the equation and elaborated a lot about it, and it really makes sense. So the equation is energy in minus energy out equals change in body stores. So the equation takes a lot of daily life things into consideration. The factors that influence energy in are appetite, which is hormones, food consumed, food consumed is influenced by the time in your day that you have to eat, the knowledge of certain foods to eat and to not eat, like healthy versus unhealthy, your sleep quality and energy density. Calories absorbed are influenced by macronutrient intake, age, health status, and energy level. Then the factors that influence energy out are energy burned at rest, which is influenced by body size, hormonal status, genetic factors, age, and sleep quality again. Energy burned through exercise is influenced by exercise ability, intensity, duration, type, and frequency. Energy burned by non-exercise activity is influenced by someone's health status, energy status, stress level, hormonal status, and occupation. Lastly, energy burned is metabolic food. Energy burned by metabolic food is influenced by macronutrient makeup and how processed the food the person is consuming. So the equation is complex and shows that it's not just as simple as calories in, calories out. It's about like what the body does with what we eat and what our body does when we're not eating.